afternoon. Members, welcome to the meeting of the panel on food safety and environmental hygiene. This is the appointed time. We have a quorum, so I call this meeting to order. First item, information paper issued since the last meeting. 2 papers were issued, including a letter dated the 2nd of April from Steven HO on issues relating to improper release of animals, as well as the administration's response to Mr. Steven HO's letter. So please note the papers. These matters have been included in the list of outstanding items for discussion. Next items for discussion at the next meeting. The Secretariat has issued the relevant lists. Please refer to them. The next regular meeting is scheduled for the 12th of May, a Tuesday at 2:30. The administration has proposed to discuss 2 items. First, new process for handling applications for outside seating accommodation of restaurants. And second, collaboration between Hong Kong and the mainland in the areas of agriculture and fisheries. Any objection? If not, then these will be the items discussed at the next meeting. Next, third item, pest control and environmental hygiene improvement. Members, if you want to speak, please press the request to speak button. I know that in this complex there are other meetings going on, so please note this speaking order. Jovi Chan, Elaine Chick, Jonathan Leung, Kizan Yang, Steven Ho, and Christine Fong. Now I'll give the floor to the Undersecretary to walk us through the paper. Pest control is an important and ongoing task of the government. We'd like to brief members on pest control and environmental hygiene enhancement work. We'll report on the work directions and the progress. The Interdepartmental Pest Control Steering Committee, chaired by the EEB, held a meeting in March this year. Departments are urged to step up efforts in pest control and prevention. In April this year, we met with the sectors again to promote collaboration with the government on prevention of mosquito and pests. And we take a multi-pronged approach with data-driven strategy in collaborating with the sectors as well as the public. Now, our control efforts include collaborating with stakeholders and extensive public education and publicity to raise awareness about environmental hygiene. In terms of mosquito and rodent control, at the control points in the communities, the FEHD places gravid traps in different areas for continuous monitoring the activity. Now there are 4 levels indicating the distribution of Aedes albopictus. Level 4 means it's extensively present. Now since August last year, FEHD expanded the enhanced control measures to areas with gravid trap indices between 10 and 20%, that's level 2, in addition to those above 20%, that's level 3. Now we also step up our efforts in controlling pests and improving environmental hygiene so as to tackle the problem of mosquito at source. We leverage technology. The FEHD works with relevant stakeholders and patrol high-risk locations, including construction sites and work sites, as well as areas where high indices are recorded. Now, if in these high-risk locations stagnant water is detected, the FEHD can issue statutory notices and require the responsible persons to follow up on the matter. The third point is to promote collaboration across departments as well as with the sectors to create synergy. Now, the FEHD urges task forces at the district level to hold meetings so as to step up coordination at the front line on mosquito and rodent control. With the joint effort of stakeholders, the overall situation is kept at bay, and yet there are still risks coming from imported cases. We must therefore stay vigilant. Now, in terms of rodent and mosquito control, especially on rodent control, the FEHD adopted thermal imaging cameras with AI technology to conduct surveys. And the thermal imaging assists the department in analyzing the timing pathways of rodent activity so that resources originally put in areas with lower RAR can be redeployed to areas with a higher RAR for more effective rodent control work. Second, we also leverage technology to prevent rodent from breeding. On private premises, the FEHD also targets the source of infestation. And if need be, notice of elimination of vermin will be issued against persons responsible for management of the building or the owner so as to clear rodent infestation in common areas. After amendment of the legislation last year, the FEHD has substantially increased the number of such notices issued against private premises. The third point is that we also join hands with sectors and members of the public in our rodent and mosquito control efforts. Now, we rolled out, for example, the anti-rodent charter in 2024, as at February 2026, over 770 organizations and groups covering 720,000 households have signed the charter. In January this year, we launched the Anti-Rodent Partner Awards 2026. We held an award presentation ceremony to encourage a coordinated mechanism to be set up. We also like to expand the coverage area managed by the FEHD from shopping centers to property management company. The number of live rodents captured also increased. At the same time, the expenditure in this area recorded a decrease. That shows effectiveness of the FEHD's strategy. Now, environmental hygiene enhancement work is also key to pest control. In the interest of time, I would urge members to refer to details in the paper. We will continue with our efforts. We will continue to review the effectiveness and continue to roll out the relevant strategies on pest and mosquito control as well as enhancing environmental hygiene. I will now give the floor to the Director of Food and Environmental Hygiene to walk members through the paper with the aid of a PowerPoint. Thank you. But I see that there isn't much new in the PowerPoint presentation, so please speed things up if you can. Right, allow me to quickly walk members through our work. The Interdepartmental Pest Control Steering Committee, chaired by the EEB, seeks to enhance coordination on mosquito and rodent prevention and control work. We've placed gravity traps in different areas for continuously monitoring Aedes albopictus activity in communities and various control points. We publish the latest indices on the website on a regular basis so as to enhance public vigilance and roll out targeted measures. Since August last year, in order to prevent the spreading of chikungunya fever, we enhanced our mosquito control work. We expanded the control measures to areas with gravity trap indices between 10 and 20% level 2, in addition to the level 3 areas, so as to respond more swiftly to the situation. Now, the FEHD focuses on minimizing the breeding grounds and apply biological and chemical methods to control mosquito populations. We also make use of technologies to help stem out mosquitoes. For example, we have the new mosquito trapping devices which can simultaneously suppress larval growth and eliminate adult mosquitoes. Over 2,000 such devices have been installed. We also make use of large low-volume fogger, as well as mosquito control robot dog and star lifts to conduct large-scale fogging operations. The star lift is used for helping us move large equipment and mount fogging operations at deep, densely vegetated sites. We also have drones with 3D mapping technology to accurately identify the stagnant water and breeding sites. This helps saves time and manpower. And we also studied the application of a mosquito against mosquito approach in Hong Kong, that is by using Warwickshire carrying male mosquitoes for the prevention and control of Aedes albopictus so as to lower the risk of transmission of diseases. As for interdepartmental cross-sectoral collaboration, we have interdepartmental task forces across districts to coordinate with departments and to mount public education. The FEHD also collaborates with the Development Bureau, and through the Construction Industry Council, we issue the guidelines on mosquito prevention in construction sites. We also issue the guidelines on mosquito prevention in schools through the Education Bureau to over 2,000 schools. We collaborate with the Property Management Services Authority to formulate the best practice guide on mosquito prevention and control in residential properties, so as to enhance the level of mosquito control work among property management companies. Now, from this chart, we can see that the gravity trap index for Aedes albopictus in 2025 as indicated in green, and there is also the monthly average of the same index between 2020 and 2024 indicated in orange. And as you can see, mosquito infestation is more prevalent between April and June. And comparing to the peaks in the previous years, you will see that in 2025 the peak was lower. That shows an improvement in mosquito infestation in Hong Kong. On rodent control, the FEHD has adopted a new data-driven strategy. We work in three directions, namely leveraging technology. We've made full use of thermal imaging cameras with the AI technology to conduct surveys and analyze the thermal images to identify the timing and pathways of rodent activity so that resources can be focused on areas with lower RAR and that more targeted strategies can be adopted.
And further, at the same time, we are also looking at private premises. We proactively go into the private premises, including privately owned buildings, and using the legal authority to issue to the owners or the managers of the relevant buildings to eliminate the vermin. This is by serving the notice of elimination of vermin notice. And further, we promote participation from all sectors in rodent control. We have the Anti-Rodent Charter as well as the Anti-Rodent Partner Awards to encourage stronger community efforts in rodent prevention. For the new measures, the FEHD had some new policies and measures. We have increased from 19 teams to 60 teams for nighttime rodent elimination teams. And also in the wet markets, stalls, etc., there had been increased activity for combating rodents. And also there are new regulations for the stalls that are selling fresh food as well as meat and poultry. As for back lanes, there are some 100 back lanes which have been covered by the relevant scheme. As for collaboration among the different departments as well as their professions and trades to combat rodent problems, we have the Charter as well as the Anti-Rodent Partner Awards. And together, we with the Buildings Management Association, we have also come up with a set of measures for stamping out rodent issues in the privately owned buildings. In 2024, we have eradicated 2025, we have eradicated 72% of the black spots with rodent problems, and that is cutting 60% of the from the target. And also for RAR ratio, it is lower than 80%. And in 2025, we have been able to capture live rodents, increasing to 129,083 in 25 from 89,629 in 2024. So in terms of expenditure, there is a decrease from 24 to 25. There had been a decrease from 846 million in 2024-25 to 811 million in 25-26, showing the efficiency and efficacy of our action. Starting from 2022, in April, we have been combating the hygiene black spots by launching the government program on tackling hygiene black spots, and under which we have tackled over 730 black spots across the territory, of which about 240 were under the responsibility of FEHD, and the number of black spots has been reduced to 45 under FEHD. And also for some illegal refuse deposit, we have a multi-pronged approach, including the installation of IP cameras and deployment of dedicated teams of plainclothes for enforcements. And there are about 3,000 of such Internet Protocol cameras. And for the ordinance, we have last year amended the ordinance for removal of blockage from the public areas from 4 hours down to half an hour. And that had been effective as well. Now, for outsourcing cleansing services, we continue to monitor the performance of outsourced contractors, including regular spot checks, etc., and any non-compliance will be given warnings, as well as this will be used as data for assessing the contractor's eligibility and rating in the future. First question, Jofi Chan. Now, for the mosquito control situation, I thank the government administration for the information. I have asked a question previously, and the first incidence of dung fever involves a construction site. Now, apart from the construction contractor, which needs to carry out inspections and remove stagnant water, the government should also have a role in this regard, so that the construction site workers will not have to face the risk of mosquito-brought dangers. And there should be inspections, and actually there should also be some penalties meted out as well. I noticed from the paper for last year, there had been the Qingyi nature path, whereby there had been dengue fever detected, and there had been technology-based combating measures, and as we have heard, it's been effective. But for the other areas that are affected by Aedes albopictus, Qingyi North is another majorly affected area. So I would like to know from the administration their measures in combating mosquitoes in Qingyi. Well, my colleagues can supplement. The question that I will answer is as follows. First of all, as you can see from last year, there had been cases, and the cross-departmental steering committee through the Development Bureau had been in touch with the contractors. And last year, with the incidents, you can see that for stagnant water found in construction sites, our department had done some law enforcement work. And for construction sites, the number of fines, the FEHD will supplement with that number. Now, as for the nature path in Qingyi last year in November, when we learnt of the local cases, we have proactively followed up on them, and the situation had been under control. That is, there had not been any fresh cases after the 30th of November. And during that period, we have put in certain contraptions, that is, graphite traps in the relevant areas. And there were these graphite traps, 7 of them, which had been put into the coverage of monitoring coverage in Qingyi North for ongoing monitoring. As for the work in the nature path of Qingyi, we will continue with that work, and we will continue to use technology, the robotic dogs, the slope scaling contraption, and also using drones to identify high-risk areas. And together with the stakeholders and departments, we will carry out the follow-up work. Next, Elaine Chick. Thank you. Concerning rodents, with the new rodent monitoring scheme using thermal technology, it seems to be successful. But for the different ways of stamping out rodents, using the traditional rodents poison is no longer as effective. Now, in the past, we see that there will have to be some barbecuing of pork and etc. to attract the rodents. And after that, actually, we see certain resistance from the rodents or the rats for these poisons. And in the US and Europe, we see that there are some drugs that can be taken by the rodents, which would reduce their fertility. That can perhaps be considered, and some commercial concerns are also using that. And some sectors in Hong Kong would want to see some trial runs with this kind of measure. I do not know from the FEHD whether you have come across this particular technology, and what is its ramifications on the ecology, if any. Will there be any trials, for example? For mosquitoes, there are mosquitoes combating or mosquitoes against mosquitoes approach. What about rodents, please? Thank you for the suggestion. We have been using composite measures in rodent control, and in that there are different ways and tools and measures. And we're very happy to try out new tools and new technology. And for example, you see that we have different rodent attraction boxes and also rodent traps, etc. Now, just now you have mentioned that there is a drug that can be used to reduce rodent population. Perhaps my colleague can supplement on that. Ms. Fogg, please. Yes, the FEHD had come across and tried to understand the fertility reduction drugs for rodents. And we have some preliminary tests. We found that the situation is not ideal for the rodents ingesting those drugs. That is to say, the rest don't like that kind of drug. And there is another problem that we have identified, and that is if we put these drugs in the outdoor areas where there are rodent infestation, it actually may not attract the rats. As we know, these drugs will have to be ingested on a consistent manner before it can be effective. And it is difficult to conceive that the rodents will continuously ingest such drugs. So for rodent control, we start from the environment. That has been our approach to improve the hygiene and the environment. That has been the approach for our rodent control. So for the fertility drugs concerned, it is not a good way forward. Jonathan Leung. Thank you, Chair. The FEHD had indeed done a lot of work in rodent control, and we do see some efficacy. For example, in 72% of the black spots had been stamped out, and live rodents had also been captured with increased incidence 25 compared to 24. Now, the restaurant trade would want to help as well, and to join the charter scheme. And a lot of shopping malls would also want to do that. There is this willingness. But on the other hand, there are some borders where the rodents may go into areas that are, within street stalls, areas, etc., and perhaps the FEHD can work with these street stalls to stamp out the rodent problem. And also we see that it is $7,000 to $10,000 as cost was eliminating a rodent, and that is expensive. So are there other ways, more efficient and less costly?
Undersecretary. On lowering cost, I will invite the director to supplement. In fact, in the beginning, we gave some figures for members' reference. Now, about restaurants, that's the crux of the members' question. We have done a lot of work. If you remember, in November 2022, we conducted a pilot scheme. Some back alleys were selected, and for food establishments, upon meeting certain conditions, they would be allowed to put rubbish bins at the back, and that can help them with waste disposal and lower the risk of rodent infestation. As of December 2025, the scheme has been expanded to cover over 100 such back alleys. Now, we earlier met with the sector, especially the F&B sector, and we were given quite positive feedback. On top of expanding the scheme to public places, there are questions whether we can further expand the scheme to private premises and shopping malls. And we will bring this view back and discuss with the property management sector. The FEHD has also issued letters to property management companies, encouraging them to take part in the scheme. Mr. Tong, the director, will supplement. Thank you, Mr. Leung. I want to clarify that in terms of resources on rodent control and pest control, the figure represents the overall expenditure on pest control. So I'm afraid we cannot directly divide the number of rodents with that sum, $800 million, because apart from capturing live rodents, we also mount public education, publicity, and as well as administrative work. So it's not as simple as doing a simple divider. Now, on optimizing the use of resources, we allocate resources on a basis of a data-driven strategy. And that is, for example, we pick the right timing and the right location. In fact, with the rodent absence rate, or RAR, we are in a better position to identify heavily invested areas, and as such we can then deploy teams and put in more resources to areas with higher RAR. And we also step up our efforts in rodent control at night because of their activity patterns. So that's how we optimize the use of resources. Next, Mr. Kitsanyang. I'd like to follow up on rodent infestation as well. In the past year, I see that the administration has made exemplary results, as shown in the figures. At the same time, on rodent control, you have made use of technology such as thermal imaging and T-shaped trapping devices and the EcoMill, the alcohol-based devices. Now, I think the government should phase out the older methods such as the pink rodent baits. I don't think that they are as effective as before. You should adopt new methods and new technologies in order to save manpower and costs. The second point is about rodent infestation in housing estates. Now, this may not be directly related to your department because when it comes to housing estates, the housing department is in charge of the common areas, but the housing department does not tackle rodent infestation inside private premises. Now, there are always complaints from residents, and the housing department would send out the adhesive devices as rodent traps, but then they are not very effective. The other point is about mosquito infestation. Kai Tak North and Ho Tin, these are black spots. Every year they top the chart. Now, just now, Undersecretary explained that they focus on mosquito control. So is it possible that before summer break, a large-scale mosquito control operation can be conducted so as to tackle the upcoming peak? The final question is about CCTVs. Now, you plan to increase the number of cameras to 3,000. I appreciate the enforcement difficulties. That is, if the litterbug wears a facial mask, then even if you get hold of the video clips, the clip will not be admissible. So is it really effective just by installing many cameras? That is, if you apparently know of somebody dumping litter whilst wearing a mask, then will you step up manpower so as to physically catch that person in order to enhance effectiveness? Undersecretary. Thank you, Chair. Yes, we adopt the new methods and new technologies along with new devices to capture rodents. And we do continuously review the effectiveness. The member mentioned baits. We need to have regard to the content of drugs in the baits, and that after a while the rodent may become resistant to the drug and they may tolerate the drug better. So we will keep in view the situation and see if there is a need to change for another method. As for housing estates, I'll give the floor to my colleague to supplement in a moment. Now, the member also mentioned Kowloon City and other areas, and that the member asked whether joint operations will be held in the short run. In fact, our chief superintendent at the district level hosts monthly meeting with the various stakeholders and departments. They discuss the relevant strategies. So I will bring your view back, and that this will be followed up on at the district level. Now, about surveillance cameras. Indeed, according to experience, it is difficult to prosecute someone just on the strength of video footage. But then, once we identify the suspect, then at the relevant time and occasion, we will dispatch officers to take enforcement action and catch the culprit. We hope to continue to make use of cameras to help us enforce the law. Right, in the interest of time, Mr. Kisan Yang, the Deputy Chair, has referred to Hon Tin and Kai Tak North, and please go back and consider his views. Mr. Steven HO. Right, I thank the administration for their efforts over the years in controlling rodents and mosquitoes. There is always room for improvement, and this is a reminder for every citizen here. Environmental hygiene is and should be our focus when it comes to mosquito and rodent control. Whatever technology we have adopted, if we continue to allow rodents to breed, then there is no end to the problem. Now, I think for the government, they should consider revamping the design of refuse collection points. As I mentioned in the past, there are always complaints about faulty equipment, and in fact, I visited different districts, and I found that in fact even the door of the refuse collection point was broken and not fixed in 2 weeks, and that just by kicking the door, some rodents would scurry off. The second point is about recycling. Very often we have the problem of fly tipping, and that the grab would cause potholes on the ground next to the refuse collection point. Something needs to be done. For example, steel panels should be installed. Otherwise, it's not a problem of technology. You need to keep the place clean, especially refuse collection points, and that the government should monitor the work of the contractors properly, and that faulty facilities should be replaced and repaired immediately. The other point is about 3,000 CCTV cameras to be installed. Now, you mentioned that this may not be used as admissible evidence, but then this may form the basis for joint operations to catch the culprits. I understand the police has recently rolled out a similar scheme. I want to know whether the 3,000 CCTV cameras can be connected to the police's smartwatch scheme so as to identify perpetrators causing environmental hygiene problems. Because if we work in silos, then even if you install 6,000 cameras instead of 3,000, you won't achieve effectiveness. The other point is this. I came across cases of rodents having a feast on the pig carcasses. These pig carcasses are just lying about on the floor. They are not covered, and this is one major cause of rodent infestation. Is there a way to tackle the problem? Because I'm very concerned. Undersecretary, first about the refuse collection points, I thank the member for his comment. In fact, there are two parts to my answer. First, regular cleansing of the RCPs, and second, a special scheme of the FHD in revamping and optimizing the facilities in RCPs. Now, we welcome details from the member in relation to these particular cases. We will take follow-up action. Now, the next question is about CCTV cameras and also the police's Smart View program. The question was whether we could step up coordination between departments so as to achieve effectiveness. We will go back and discuss with other departments. The third question is about pig carcasses. Now, we attach great importance to this area of work. In the first quarter of this year, the FHD mounted special operations across the territory. In early mornings, the FHD officers inspected the fresh provision shops to see whether there were pork carcasses lying about outside the shops. We inspected over 200 fresh provision shops. In fact, in the case of one non-compliant situation, we issued altogether 47 verbal warnings and we initiated 21 prosecutions. Let me give you two examples. We have been very proactive in following up on these cases. In January this year, the fresh provision shop in Kowloon City was the subject of rodent infestation and poor environmental hygiene. Now, after we gathered sufficient evidence, we already issued an immediate closure order in January, according to the Public Hygiene and Municipal Services Ordinance. In March, a fresh provision shop in Yuen Long was found to have breached the licensing conditions, and that is, they have not properly kept the pig carcasses. They were left outside the shop without any staff watching over that. So in March, we directly revoked the license of that shop, and will continue along this direction to ensure that fresh provision shops would handle the carcasses in a proper manner to ensure hygiene. Ms. Christine Fong. Thank you, Chair. I welcome the mosquito and rodent control work of the department. In 2025, according to the figures, over 140,000 rodents were captured, live or dead. And that's really impressive. Now, is there any room for improvement? I share the same view as other directly elected members or GC members. Now, we have tenant purchase scheme estates in Hong Kong, and I think there is more to be decided when it comes to the management of the estate by owners corporations such as Kingdom Estate and Cheung Kwan O or Choi Ming Court. There are lots of problems. For example, earlier there was an embezzlement in relation to one of the OCs. They did not even have resources to clean up the flower beds and planters. I wonder if the administration could issue warnings. And today I read from the news, in Chung On Estate, Ma On Shan, the police has mounted drones to combat crime. So can the same be done by the FEHD, for example, with infrared cameras? Because you mentioned installing more cameras. Can you install more cameras in housing estates? Next, about the countryside. There are tourist attractions in rural areas, such as one in Fei Ngo Shan. We have visitors and locals going up to the top of the hill at night, and yet they leave behind leftover and food packaging and rubbish at the hillside. So can we install cameras? Another point is about mosquito infestation. Now, I understand a lot of efforts have been made by government departments, and apart from a fogging operation, it is equally important to clear densely vegetated sites. Now, we need a collaborative effort among government departments, such as the Harbourfront Promenade, including the ones in Cheung Kwan O, Sai Kung, Ma On Shan, Sha Tin, and these harbourfronts may involve the LCSD, Highways Department, Drainage Services Department, as well as the FEHD. So will you step up the efforts, and will there be the use of new gravity trap devices in NDAs?
Thank you for the questions. In your questions, there were certain locations mentioned, and we will reflect this back to the officers concerned that are responsible for the locations concerned, and they will work together with the stakeholders to follow up on the situation and allow a bit of time for this. And also for mosquitoes, removal of grass may be one approach. In fact, the Lands Department had been doing that, and also through our meetings that are interdepartmental, we will continue to follow up with Lands Department. Now, as for the other point concerning monitoring of mosquito incidents, from time to time we will review the situation. And according to the need, we will look at the traps and also the graphite traps, and to see whether we can optimize those. Yes, Mr. Ng will supplement. Please be concise. Right. For housing estates, actually, it's been mentioned that there are the charters in the 39 estates concerned. We have encouraged them to participate in them, and there had been 28 which had participated. And we will introduce to them the measures for stamping out rodents. Next. Yes, Shu Fei. Right. For the last year, there had been incidents of the mosquito-borne disease, including the chikungunya fever. And I'm very heartened to see that this is the mosquito against mosquito measure. Maybe you can throw more light on that. And also for the rodent incident, yes, I don't think I need to go into the details of the pork carcasses, etc. You have very rapidly dealt with the situation, but this is really not resolving the problem at its root. I've been here for 10 years in this LegCo, and it seems that the rodent issue is a recurring one, and it's still not stamped out. Because for rodents, they have a natural enemy, and the natural enemy is the cat. But I don't see cats, and cats don't eat pig carcasses, and there are some cats without owners, and perhaps you can use cats to control the pest, that is rodents. One possibility. Yes, can you please not fiddle on the microphone, Ms. Wang? Right. Yes, paragraph 5 of the paper talks about the Walpertia carrying male mosquitoes as an application for mosquito against mosquito approach. For this approach, the procedure and the efficacy needs time to prove. And there will have to be clinical trials before we can actually confirm the data. And when we have the data, we will provide you with that. As for your second point, using cats to control pests. Yes, in the past, this had been raised before. Let's say in the wet markets, perhaps there can be cats deployed. But we have heard voices saying that the wet market is a place for selling fresh foods, and there are cooked food stalls as well. If there are cats there, perhaps it might affect the customers or the stall owners of these concerns. So I think we will have to look deeper into the possibility. Now, I have 2 cats at home. For cats, the most important thing is that you find a place where they can defecate. So otherwise, the cats are very clean. Apart from defecation, the cats are easy to take care of, and they will be able to combat rodents. Perhaps you can find a test point, a trial spot. Yes, there will be extra work to clean behind the cats, but if you have the right the cat toilets, it's easy. So it's been over 10 years. It's still a problem. So try something new. Right. Vincent Cheng. First of all, I would want to thank the administration in the Yaoqing district. The combat of hygiene black spots had been good, and I do see the number coming down, and I do see the efforts of the FEHD. Now, concerning tackling hygiene black spots, it's been reduced from 240 to 45, and there had been major elimination of these black spots, but there are some resilient black spots. Why is that? Why are they still there? Because there is too much rubbish or whatever. Will there be new measures combating them? Now, for the Yao Qin Mong areas, there are tourists and there are a lot of restaurants which are very popular, and I do want to see that there are sufficient manpower deployment as well as rubbish bins so that we raise experience for the tourists. Thirdly, for buildings without any management to speak of, the so-called 3-nil buildings, pest is a problem, and lately there had been some joint buildings management efforts, and I do see some efficacy there, and perhaps the FDHD can also support these projects so that in terms of hygiene, there can be enhancements as well for these joint building management efforts. Yes, the FDHD will answer the first question. As for the questions 2 and 3, I would want to respond by saying that for restaurants, as I have mentioned just now, there are certain measures from us to help them handle their rubbish. In Kowloon City, for instance, there are a lot of tourists, as you have mentioned, patronizing these restaurants. And for the back lane project, there are 13 back lanes in Kowloon City and also 7 in Shamshipo and also Yao Qin Mong. There are over a dozen as well. So, yes. Together with the Home Affairs Office, we have been working very closely, and they are also represented in the steering committee, which is cross-departmental. For rodent problem, the charter that we have mentioned, once these buildings have mandated or hired a management company, they would sign the charter. So these buildings which are under joint management, some of them have joined our rodent combat or rodent control charter. And we can look into how these management companies of these joint building management projects can further join these charters. Now, Mr. Poon, yes, as we have mentioned, we started up with 700 hygiene black spots. Now it's been reduced to 45, which are still under FEHD. Now, for some of these black spots, they are repeated occurrence black spots. So let's say in the summer, they are black spots, but not in other times. For example, there are, dripping from air cons, and we now have infrared new technology to handle this. And I do see that the efficacy rate is very high. And for some of the areas, it is because it's less than 2 years. Now, the government had announced that the black spots, it has to be taken off the black spots list after 2 years of a clean bill of health. So some of the black spots have not reached the 2 years. So 4 minutes again for Q&A. Chan Pok Chi, please. Thank you, Chair. For the electric slope climbers, how many are there right now? Will there be quantity deployment? And also for stalls and also for wet markets, there is intensive rodent control. But for fresh food stalls, including their back lanes, will there be more heat imaging devices? And also we've received a lot of cases asking for help. For example, where there are high scientific value areas, it is difficult for them to use these mosquito control contraptions and also devices. What to do for them, please? Right. For the stair climbers, it is exactly in Qingyi nature path because there are a lot of steps and it's very wide-ranging in terms of area. There is therefore one stair lift, and if it is effective, we will find other spots where the topography is similar so that we can have more of these lifts. And the other question concerning thermal imaging, whether these can be deployed in back lanes, perhaps FEHD can supplement on that. Thirdly, concerning high scientific value areas because of their specific environment, and therefore the mosquito control work is limited. But on the other hand, the directors for these locations will be alerted and they will be communicating with the relevant department. So whereas the environment and conservation can be protected, but at the same time mosquitoes can be stamped out. Mr. Poon, yes, the black spots for rodent incidents is exactly the back lanes. 90% of these black spots are actually situated in these back lanes. Right.
Mr. Hong came in. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for extended meeting so that we will all have an opportunity to express our views. Now, rodent and pest control is essential to ensure public health and safety. Now, at the district level, government departments also actively take it forward. Now, can we work with the care teams, because the police is already working very actively with care teams in mounting, say, anti-scam publicity. So perhaps at the district level, you can enlist the help of care teams to combat the mosquito and rodent infestation. In terms of rodent infestation, we understand that there has been an apparent drop in 2025, down by 9.5%. Now, in fact, this is a question among the public, and that is, on what basis do you put gravity trap at certain locations? And do you adjust the positions on a regular basis? For rodent infestation, rodent activities, rodent black spots decreased from 90 in the first half of 2024 to 44 in the second half of 2025. The number of live rodents captured also increased to 129,000. So this is impressive result. But from media reports on and off, we hear about rodent infestation in restaurants, and this hampers the public's confidence in our restaurants. So what will be your strategy to tackle the problem? Under Secretary, I'll answer the first two questions and then the FEHD can answer the last question. First, about working with care teams. I thank the member for the suggestion. This is a very good one. We will bring this view back to the Interdepartmental Pest Control Steering Committee so that we can discuss with representatives of the Home Affairs Department and see how we can enlist the help of care teams on rodent and mosquito control work. About placing gravity traps, let me explain that the FEHD follows the WHO recommendations and local circumstances in selecting locations for gravity traps. For densely populated areas such as housing estates, villages, schools, hospitals, leisure grounds, as well as cases where dengue fever or other mosquito-borne diseases had emerged, we will include them in our list. And we also have regard to the resources. We conduct a review for the location of gravity traps in the following year. Mr. Poon. Thank you, Mr. Hong. About media reports on rodent infestation in restaurants, we will take immediate action. Now, first of all, we checked if indeed rodent is present. If that is the case, we will warn the restaurant. We also checked if that restaurant has put in place proper rodent control measures, or does the operator make it too easy for rodents to come in the restaurant from outside. And we issue statutory notices. That is a notice to eliminate the vermin. And we may also initiate prosecution. We also checked for food safety and environmental hygiene. And these are factors in deciding whether to prosecute the restaurant. Now, I'm the last one to speak. I'm very concerned about a local 21-year-old male infected with dengue fever, as announced by the Center for Health Protection. Now, I checked all the local cases about dengue fever. We had none we had none last year, but we had some cases of local infection in 2024. That means we had the we had the dengue fever or the virus carrying mosquitoes around, and we're now entering into a rainy season. And yet, at the moment, we're still in April. It doesn't rain as often. Are you going to be alerted? Because you talked about using robot dogs and spraying larvicidal oil, but then when it rains, the oil just gets washed off. And for rodent infestation at night, you deploy additional manpower up to a team of 60. So about mosquito control, are you going to step up manpower, or is it that are you going to spray larvicidal oil again every time after it has rained? The second point is that after placing more gravity traps, I see that you have achieved a better result, and you've expanded the scope of placing gravity traps to level 2 areas. And I appreciate that. I hope more gravity traps can be placed, because there are areas of dense vegetation near housing estates, and these are breeding grounds. The third point is about effectiveness. Now, I asked the same question at the Finance Committee meetings. In fact, about live rodent captured, the number increased to 129,000 in 2025. But the public is left with this impression that of rodents munching on pig carcasses. So rodent infestation in the minds of the public is a serious problem. Now, for the nighttime anti-rodent team, the number has increased from 19 to 60. Now, we do appreciate that rodents tend to be active at night, but is there any room to further increase the number from 60 so as to step up your effort in controlling rodents? Secretary. About this local case, on the 21st of April, the Center for Health Protection made an announcement just shortly after 5 p.m. The first locally infected dengue fever case. For this infected person, the FEHD has already conducted a vector survey at a 250-meter radius of his premises, work location, and hospital, as well as mounting mosquito control efforts. We've also stepped up inspection of high-risk places. We also ask our staff to give professional advice to stakeholders, followed by technical support. We mount public education to raise the public's awareness. Now, at the district level, the chief superintendent convenes an interdepartmental district meeting about mosquito control, so as to take targeted measures against mosquito infestation. Today, the FEHD also dispatched staff to check high-risk areas in the vicinity of his residential premises, including work sites, housing estates, to see if stagnant water is present. If there is, then with sufficient evidence, we'll initiate prosecution. We also inspect the schools and residential care homes in the vicinity, as well as child care facilities. We plan to install new gravity trap devices in schools. We also consider whether there is a risk on public health. We attach great importance, and we also seek to stem out mosquito infestation, and we take responsive action. Now, to answer the other question about yes, about the mobile teams at night. The team started with just 19 in July 2022. The figure has now gone up to 60. Over 60. And we do provide additional teams on a need basis. For example, before or during Chinese New Year, say between the middle of December of 2025 to February 2026, on a need basis, and we deployed additional teams. That is, we increased the number to 85 as part of our spring clean efforts. We understand that resources are limited. We need to optimize the use to tackle rodent infestation, and we'll keep in view the situation and make suitable arrangements. Now, about live rodents, we captured 129,100 in 2025. Live rodents, right, 129,000. Now, we tackle black spots as well. We cleared and eliminated 72% of the black spots. That's 62 out of 93 black spots, 72%. In terms of complaints, on average, we receive about 10,000 complaints. So it's a steady trend that shows the effectiveness of our work, because we haven't received an apparent increase in the number of complaints, and we'll continue to allocate resources optimally to enhance effectiveness. Right, item 4, any other business? Nothing from members, so that's the end of the meeting. Thank you, Secretary and your team.